Hello everybody, welcome back to Valuation Investing, and today in this video I'm going to be going over why I believe Google could be the best AI stock out there right now. In which, before getting into this video, I do have to say I do own a large position in Google stock, in which it's my biggest position in my entire portfolio. But with that being said, I'm going to be going into the reasons and why I truly believe that this company could have huge benefits from AI, unlike other investors that believe that this company could see huge downside because of AI. And the first thing that I'm going to be getting into is Alphabet's recent earnings report, in which they reported $96.43 billion in revenue versus $94 billion expected. So they beat their revenue estimates by more than $2 billion. And with the earnings per share, they reported $2.31 versus $2.18 expected. So they had huge beats on both the revenue and earnings per share. Also, some other very important numbers has to do with the YouTube advertising revenue, which you are watching right now. They reported $9.8 billion versus $9.56 billion expected. And also, which was the big highlight of this earnings, was their Google Cloud revenue, which came in at $13.62 billion versus $13.11 billion expected, in which Google Cloud actually grew at over 32% year over year. In comparing that to other competitors such as AWS only grew at about 17% over the past year, which Google Cloud, like I said, has been growing almost double the amount of AWS in their revenue. In comparing that with Microsoft Azure, they're growing at about the same pace as Microsoft Azure. And with Google, you always hear about how Google search is going to be going away because of AI such as ChatGPT, and I don't believe that is the case. And the real reason for this is because I believe ChatGPT and Google search is slightly different, in which, yes, ChatGPT is AI, but I do believe that Google search is still needed to search the web. And even if investors are worried about AI taking over Google, I personally don't believe that could happen, mainly because of all the employees that Google has and all the money that is flowing into Google. I don't think it's possible for this company to be losing much market share, in which they have so many engineers that I don't even think it's really possible for this company to be taken over. And also in the recent earnings report, we can see the resilience of Google search, in which it grew at 12% year over year, totaling $54.2 billion in revenue, in which Google search is actually not seeing any slowdown in this growth. And this just goes to show why I truly believe that Google search isn't going anywhere. And I think that Google's AI will help Google search grow over time, in which that's what they said in their earnings call, that AI is actually helping Google search revenue increase even more. So I don't believe that AI is going to be taking Google at all, but I truly believe that AI is going to help Google in the long run. And taking a look at the YouTube performance, YouTube advertising revenues grew by nearly 13%. And also YouTube Shorts, just wait till you hear this number, YouTube Shorts has demonstrated such impressive engagement that they're averaging over 200 billion daily views. And with that being said, with 200 billion daily views, that is basically each person on earth having a total of 30 views per day. So this is just insane dominance with YouTube Shorts, in which a lot of people have said TikTok and Instagram Reels are going to be taking over everything, but coming in with YouTube Shorts, actually one of the biggest players in the space that people make fun of, but it's doing really well. So you can't really be making fun of YouTube Shorts if it's doing so well with 200 billion daily views. And taking a look at Alphabet's AI and Gemini developments, they actually saw huge demand for these products, in which Gemini usage has grown by over 35 times year over year. So this is just crazy growth with their AI products. And also the Gemini app has over 450 million monthly active users. So this is really dominating the AI space, and people aren't really talking about this. And also another huge bet that this company has made is on a company called Waymo, in which it's Alphabet's autonomous vehicle division, in which, while we hear about Tesla robotaxi taking over the world, we actually have Waymo that has already started their self-driving vehicles, in which they have actually had success, where Tesla Robotaxi has barely even started. Where Tesla Robotaxi has people in their vehicles still, Waymo is full self-driving. While Waymo only operates in a few cities such as Phoenix, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, they're trying to be partnering with Uber, taking over in Austin and Atlanta, and also even New York City. And they're pending regulatory approval in New York City, because if they could get New York City, I believe Waymo is going to be a huge investment for Google. In which, in San Francisco, Waymo has only been there for a few years, and Waymo has already taken over Lyft. They have a greater gross bookings compared to Lyft and are getting closer to Uber over time. So Waymo is starting to take over this business too. Where Waymo is currently providing over 250,000 paid robotaxi rides per week in these locations. So they have a lot of robotaxi rides. With that being said, if I take a look at my 7-step stock analysis, we can see that 7 out of the 7 are green and are check marks, in which the P ratio is trading at a 21 P ratio, which means if you bought this stock today, you'd be paying about $21 for $1 of earnings per share from the past 12 months. So that's pretty low, especially compared to the stock market right now that trades at about a 25 to 30 P ratio. And also the forward P ratio, I want less than 30, in which it's at a 20 forward P ratio, which means you're going to be paying about $20 for $1 of future earnings per share over the next year, which is also lower compared to the market. And taking a look at the revenue growth rate, it is growing at 17% year over year, which is faster than 5%. And comparing that with the P ratio, for example, if we look at Apple is trading at about a 35 PE ratio, and the company has been basically flat in their revenue over the past few years. Also, Microsoft is growing at a slower revenue growth rate, and yet their PE ratio is at like 38. So with this growth rate from Google, they're trading at a very cheap valuation. And also the earnings per share growth rate is at 24%, which is just insanely fast for such a huge business. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Google is actually the largest net profit maker in the world. They make the most amount of money out of any company in the entire world. Also, another huge thing I like for Google is their shares outstanding, which their shares outstanding are declining 2% each year, which that is helping us investors get a larger return and own a greater percentage of the company. And also, the total debt to equity ratio is just 10%, meaning that they have 10 times more equity than their debt. So they have a very good balance sheet, and I truly believe they have the best balance sheet out of every big tech stock. Also, taking a look at the total cash, they have $95 billion in cash compared to only $35 billion in debt. So they have a net debt of literally negative $60 billion. So they have a surplus compared to their debt with their cash. So they just have an insane balance sheet, and I believe this is one of the best balance sheets on the market. And finally, looking at the analyst expectations for their earnings per share growth rate, they expect them to grow at a greater than 5% rate, at 15%. So this is just another good sign for Google. Analysts still expect this company to be growing at a pretty good rate. So I just believe that Google is a very good financial health company. They have one of these best financials on the market. So with that being said, I'm going to be using my intrinsic value calculator in order to determine the price I'd be willing to pay for Google and why I still believe that this could be a good buy today. So the future annual revenue growth rate. Like I said with Google has been growing at a 17% year over year growth rate, in which I believe in the future analysts expect them to grow at 15%. So let's say they grow their growth rate. So let's say they grow their revenue growth rate at 12% each year, in which I think in the next 10 years, they could have $1.1 trillion in revenue. So this, I think, could grow up to that, especially if they keep up with the AI and they just keep their competitive advantage and moat against other companies getting into the AI space. Now for the future profit margin. Their profit margin has been anywhere from 25 to just over 30%, in which I believe that their future profit margin could be 30%. And the reason I believe that is because I think this company will continue to increase this net profit margin. Even though they're going to be spending a lot of capex, I believe in the future this will help pay off and help their future profit margin to be 30%. Now for the future P ratio. Right now, they're trading at about a 20 P ratio, and the market's at about a 25 to 30 P ratio. Even though back then, Google's been trading at anywhere from 25 to 30, I believe that their future P ratio should be in line with the stock market. I do think the stock market is trading at a slightly high valuation, so I'm going to put a 23 PE ratio. Now for the final thing, I'm going to put the shares outstanding, in which they've been buying back shares at about 2% each year. And I think they're going to continue to do that because they're big advocates for buybacks, and they have one of the biggest buyback programs on the market. With that being said, I get a future share price of Google in the next 10 years at $804, in which if you bought this today at $194, I think you can make a 15% return on this company. And me personally, I own this company at an average share price of about $156, so I believe I can make almost 18% return on this company over the next 10 years, which would outperform the market by a huge margin, in which the stock market normally gets a return of 10 to 12%. So thank you guys for watching this video on why I believe Google is the best AI stock to buy right now. Please subscribe, hit the like button, comment down below what you think about Google and if I'm right about this assumption, and comment down below Google if you finished the entire video, just to know who finished this entire video and who truly supports me. So thank you guys for watching, and see you.